Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am joined once again at the hip by my brother from another mother, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, I missed you, buddy. What's going on?
I am Feelicific. Do you know what Feelicific is? I'll tell you.
I was going to say it's the word of the day.
It is the word of the day, causing or tending to cause happiness. And that's what you do to me, my friend. You cause or tend to cause happiness.
Oh, man, that warms the cockles, let me tell you. Hey, we can't get too...
You can't say that. It's a family show. Don't be saying cockles. Oh, wait, I said...
Yeah, you can't say it either then. Isn't that how that works?
Yes, it is. Damn.
Hey, you know what? We got to stay under a minute with all the nonsense, right?
Well, yeah, otherwise people yell at us and stuff, but I get it.
People scold us as if there isn't like a 15 or 30-second skip or, you know, things like that on the podcast. The free podcast, mind you, that this is. But anyways, you know, we'll take our usual. It's like one out of like, you know, 1,000 people that usually complain. And it's always that squeaky wheel that gets like up under my skin. And then I'm just like, you know what? No podcast for you. I'm going to do the old soup Nazi, but from Seinfeld. But anyways, we have important things to talk about today. Things and stuff and things. This is very, very, very important, Brian. What are the Steelers going to do now with Ben Roethlisberger seemingly out of the way? It doesn't look like, you know, with this whole quarantine thing that's going on, that he's going to be able to resume his rehab, be ready for this upcoming season, and for all intents and purposes at his age. We've seen Eli Manning retire, Phillip Rivers, I don't know, I know Phillip's going to play with the new team with the Colts and stuff, but, you know, his team moved on from him as well. They were part of that same draft class, so I really don't know. There's this whole doom and gloom type thing, and you know, Bri, you unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of sound, a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You just crossed over into the
quarterback zone?
Pretty much. It's an April Fool's podcast from us, folks, and there's nothing going on with Ben Roethlisberger. In fact, if you head on over to our lovely website at steelcityunderground.com, you will see his training regimen has drastically changed while all of us are in isolation. He's out there in the woods being a mountain man and just killing it. I don't know that he's really doing that either, but you'll get a good joke out of that if you check out our April Fool's thing on the website. But James Conner isn't fooling anyone. He's out there chucking wood and things like that. But we're going to take you to this Twilight Zone, and we couldn't play the real music because, you know, we don't
licensing.
We don't want YouTube. It's just like it's the next thing that YouTube will do. They'll find it a year and a half down the road and then complain about it like they tend to do, and we'll get our hands slapped again and everything else. And
let me ask you a quick question, though.
Yeah.
Is it April Fool's if we let them know that it's an April Fool's joke before we're done?
Well, I have a feeling if we started doing it, then people are going to like really think we're a bunch of clowns, even though some people already think that. So I kind of wanted to like I wanted to take everyone to this Twilight kind of zone because there's some people obviously living in it.
That's true.
They're talking about like sign this guy, draft this guy. And as you said, if any mock draft has the Steelers drafting a quarterback, they shall be mocked, which is the way it should be. So, but well, you know what?
I'm talking to you, Brooke Pryor. I'm talking to you.
Shame. Sorry. I didn't want to call anyone out by name, but
I'm doing it. I don't care.
There's plenty out there. You know, I'm online, and anytime somebody gets released or somebody's been floating around out there, they immediately should be the next best thing since sliced bread, even better than Big Ben. They're going to take the team to incredibly new heights. it's never seen before. Let's just say, though, that Ben comes out with the old noodle arm or whatever. Let's just say this did happen, and we really were in the Twilight Zone. This wasn't like an April Fool's idea. Yeah, I know. I wanted to be a little funny. If somebody didn't use the skip, and maybe they'll skip. You know what's actually great is one of these naysayers that doesn't like waiting to get to the meat of this podcast. They're just going to skip past all of this, and then the joke's on them. So it'll work both ways anyway, Brian.
Yes, that's true. Good point.
They won't even hear that. Another 30 seconds, they'll be tuning in. They had to get past everything else that we had to say. So, but you know what? Hey, you know what? Before I even get to that, I know all of us are in quarantine and there's different things going on and whatnot, but I wanted to address, I wanted to bring up something from one of our sponsors from the past that will be doing something here again in the future, knock on wood, God willing, that everything returns back to normal. Gameday Tailgate Experience, they're going to be hosting at least one tailgate. I can't mention the other stuff that's in the works just yet. There might be more than one, actually. But the Steelers will be playing in Jacksonville this year, should everything resume as usual. And we're starting to take some feelers for who may be interested in going down there, getting a package with the VIP tailgate and a game ticket, either in the upper level or lower level. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, this isn't part of this isn't part of April Fool's Day by any means. If you are interested in this, shoot over your name, of course, in email, preferably at fanmail@steelcityunderground.com. We're just collecting a small list of people who may be interested because if you get in on the ground floor here, of which we'll have the information shortly because we're trying to get out ahead of the NFL schedule, which I know all of yins will be planning around too. But if it sounds like something, this is just interest. This isn't like any obligation. Shoot over your information to fanmail@steelcityunderground.com. I may even make like a little fancy landing page for this too here in the very near future. But you know, we're just looking for feelers right now, and those of you in on the ground floor will also receive a discount that others that'll stand around and wait too long aren't going to get. So check that out. But now back to the quarterback Twilight Zone of Ben's not going to play this year. Let's say we just find this out like right before, right around, the next 2 weeks. All of a sudden, it's he's had a setback and he can't play, and we're gonna enter this imaginary realm of here. Let's get this guy, because there are some people out there that already think that Ben. And here's one. Let's bring this up right away, Brian. Ben is holding the Steelers hostage because he makes too much money. He's old and he's washed up. He looked old and tired last year against the Patriots. Do you want to know why Ben threw like 47 passes or had 47 pass attempts? And you want to know why he only completed like maybe 50% of them? Does anybody I can't believe that people have such a short memory, especially when they just scolded Dante Moncrief to begin with. That was one of the guys. But everybody was dropping passes. Juju, Vance McDonald, James Conner. These guys couldn't catch a cold that day. They just couldn't catch a break. And they were playing from behind, no less, because the defense, believe it or not, was actually showing what they were, kind of the chops of what they were trying to become. They were out on the field for 4 hours or whatever, compared to the offense that didn't do much of anything. But when you fall behind to the Patriots 20-0 and you don't score at all in the first half, I don't know that's Ben necessarily being tired. There were a lot of 3 and outs and just a lot of garbage in that game. And I don't think that you could say that if Ben was old and tired then, he's going to be old and tired after having a year off. If anything, he would be rested. But he sure didn't look old and tired in training camp. He had the usual breaks, the usual rest, and everything like that. So that one kind of bothers me. The holding the team hostage over money, that really bothers me too, because there's a guy that's restructured his contract. We can't help that all of this money's been kicked into the future just to make all of the Yinzers happy with signings such as Eric Ebron. So you can't have it both ways, folks. It is what it is, and if you're a top-level quarterback, I would say Ben's a top level, maybe top 10, top 12, somewhere in there. Your upper, third, quarter of quarterbacks in the NFL. You're a $30 million or more man, and if you're Dak Prescott and think you're better than everybody in the world, you're shooting for the moon for 40 or 45 mil.
Yeah, I look. The idea that Ben's holding anybody hostage with the cost is absurd. Look, he's not holding them hostage. The Steelers agreed to a contract. He's allowed, as you said, it to be restructured over and over again. So that's a fallacy. But I guess if I want to play in the Twilight world or the Twilight Zone world, I should go, you're right. He is holding them hostage. Daggone it. Doug Nabbit. We got to get rid of this guy because he's a prima donna drama queen. He's old. He's washed up. The fact that the 2 games he got in last year were the first 2 games where he always isn't any good doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Not only that, let's eat $30 million of cap space and use $6 million of it and go out and get I don't know. I'd like to see what the Patriots are going to do at quarterback, to be completely honest. Maybe they should go out and get one of these guys. I'm Andy Dalton available still? Maybe we could bring the Red Rifle to the Steel City. Well, let's talk about the guys that actually are available and the 2 popular ones that everybody wants to keep bringing up. Number 1, speaking of Ben being injured and missing all of last year, let's go out and get the guy that's going to cost just as much that missed most of last year as well, in Cam Newton. Am I right? So,
oh, yeah.
And somebody else out there was like, these guys aren't signed because of character concerns. No, he's not signed because, 1, he's not a very accurate quarterback, and 2, he's been fairly injured and banged up in his career. And so people, the other thing is 3 is the asking price. You know what I mean? If he's willing to take a little less, or he's not looking to compete as a starting quarterback somewhere, he's willing to reduce himself to backup role and backup money, I'm sure he would have been signed boom in an instant. You know what I mean? But he and the other guy we will bring up in a second are probably looking to still be starting quarterbacks, ply their craft that way in the NFL, and they're probably looking for a decent buck in order to do so too. So, just because they're still available, there's, what do you want to say? There's risk involved with it's money versus reward here. And when you look at some contracts that happen here in the NFL, some guys are only getting a 1-year deal or something like that. Speaking of the Ravens, with the whole Brockers thing falling through, and signing Derek Wolfe. I mean, Derek Wolfe's, on the backside of his career. Somebody I liked as he played in Denver, but he's only there on a cheapo 1-year deal. It's almost like a prove it thing, either to parlay into more money or to prove he could be healthy for a whole season, because he's been banged up too over the years. So these are the kind of things that happen. But everybody that's immediately thinking, Cam Newton's going to come to Pittsburgh and instantly upgrade this offense to, whatever the Panthers did when they went to the Super Bowl, and Cam's still that Superman guy with 50 total touchdowns in him or whatever, they're smoking a little bit of the wacky tobacco, and they're being fooled on this appropriate day of April 1st.
Yeah, they are. Look, you don't just give up on a quarterback that is, potentially your franchise quarterback. Cam Newton has had, flashes of being an exceptional guy, and he's not done a lot other than the flashes. So I'm sorry, it's just not even feasible to just assume. I know. Well, again, wait a minute. I'm going to go back into my Twilight Zone persona. Any player who comes to the Steelers and puts on the black and gold, let me tell yins, they're going to be a Hall of Famer. As soon as they put that, it's magic. It's just magic, that uniform, and they're going to be the best ever. So it doesn't matter if they weren't that good wherever they were. When they get here, they're going to be great.
Yeah,
no, that's not true.
The Midas touch.
Yeah.
Literally turn everything into gold or black and gold, or the black and gold standard, as we are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But all that aside, and talking about Cam Newton, he's a guy, like I said this in a previous podcast when we were kind of mocking this and mocking the people that were saying some of this stuff. I always thought he was in the vein of Big Ben. With Norv Turner, he was completing a little bit, more passes. But he's always been a guy that's thrown a dozen or more picks. In fact, there was only one season he didn't throw a dozen picks. That would be the one where they actually went to the Super Bowl. What was it? 30. He had 35 touchdown passes, by far the most he's had in his career. He's never thrown for more than 30. And in fact, there's some seasons here where Cam Newton, I understand he uses his feet a lot. There's a lot of rushing touchdowns. But you look throughout his career, 21, 19, 24, 18, the outlier 35 when they went to the Super Bowl, 19, 22, and then 24, and then 0. And almost all of these seasons, he struggles to complete 60% of his passes. He struggles to complete like 58% some of these times. I mean, he had a season here, 57.7, 52.9. I'm assuming some of this got a little bit better as they went on, when they changed coordinators and things of that nature. But overall, I mean, Steelers quarterbacks last year combined for 18 touchdown passes. You're not upgrading anything here. It's more of the same thing. Like, what is that? If you don't learn from history, you're failed to repeat it, or it's like insanity is repeating the same thing over and over, like the Twilight Zone song. So, yeah, I mean, and this isn't a guy that's doing a lot with his feet anymore either. The double-digit touchdown thing. Okay, he did it his rookie year, 14. Then he had 8, 6, 5, 10. Again, that Super Bowl year, and then 5, 6, 4. And of course 0 last year, only appearing in 2 games, much like Ben Roethlisberger, and then he was gone for the rest of the year, and now he's gone from the franchise that took him number 1 overall back in 2011. So,
yeah.
It kind of sucks for him. I always liked Cam, and like I said, I always thought he was a bigger guy that didn't get the calls like Ben, just like Ben, the roughing calls or whatever. That's the reason why he gets banged up. He doesn't have the wearing the skirt treatment that Tom Brady usually gets from the referees. But he's also a guy that's been hard to bring down. But also, when you run your quarterback like this and allow him to get like tattooed, this is what's going to happen. And he's only had one 4,000-yard passing season because a lot of it is sometimes he looks to run right away. It's thrown, like I said, 17, 12, 13, 12, 10. There's the outlier season. 14, 16, and 13. Those are his interceptions for a year. Now, I know Ben, if I bring Ben up, he's going to be somewhere in the same ballpark. Nobody's like Aaron Rodgers only throwing like 4 in a season or whatever. But I mean, Ben's had some seasons where he hasn't thrown double digits, and I understand some of those seasons he also hasn't played a full 16 games. In the last few seasons, Ben has thrown, let's see, going back to, let's say, 20... Well, we look at almost the outlier seasons here. Ben's outlier would be 2014, maybe 4,952 yards. He only threw 9 picks to 32 touchdowns. And then the rest of it is, 21 to 16, 29 to 13, 28 to 14, and then 34 to 16, but he threw for 5,129 yards. And, of course, he had a pick last year, which went off of somebody's butterfingers, or I believe that was a Moncrief thing, too, the same way when Mason Rudolph first got in a game the very next week, which I was just looking at. And that was an interesting game too, Brian, because you went from like nobody catching passes to Juju Smith-Schuster becoming the youngest player to surpass however many yards it was over Randy Moss by like 35 days or whatever. Vance McDonald had 7 catches, with 2 of them being touchdown catches in that game, in that loss against the Seahawks, where there were other things, there were penalties and things like that, were the reason they lost. It wasn't because necessarily quarterback play. Dan McCullers got called for a hold, and a field goal attempt on 4th down turned into first down, and then turned into a touchdown. And same thing with that Terrell Edmonds pass interference call, overturn crap on 3rd and 20 that I still won't give up to this day as being pass interference. So you had those things that work against you as far as the Steelers are concerned, and of course Dante Moncrief having a ball go right through his hands that he should have caught, that was picked off in that game too, off a Mason Rudolph pass. So, I mean, these are the things, that would happen the same way, I think, if Cam Newton were in town. Now, let's talk about another guy. I guess he got his vision changed by LASIK or whatever. Maybe he'll be able to see straight, but, the quarterback whisperer, Bruce Arians, doesn't think so, and he's been run out of Tampa, and that is Jameis Winston, which, before we get to Mr. Winston, I'm going to ask my Professor Watson here, how do you think about Tom Brady and a Bruce Arians pairing, now that it's off the top of my head? I saw somebody else mention this too, and I saw a statistic on how many sacks first-year quarterbacks with Bruce Arians have taken, and they've been basically a punching bag. Tom Brady's not used to that. I wouldn't say that Tom Brady's offensive line is all-world, especially since they couldn't run the ball last year. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. Carson Palmer basically got retired because of Bruce Arians.
Yeah, look, it'll be interesting. I don't know if the Leopard has changed his spots or not. But protecting the quarterback's never been one of Bruce Arians' biggest concerns. And it'll be interesting to see if that is in fact the case here. Because, look, I get it. When you're Tom Brady, you're going to get some calls. But you know what? If you're getting a lot of guys getting free runs at you, and you're getting tagged quite a bit, I can see that relationship souring really fast. I don't know. Wah, wah, wah.
A little trouble there, even though probably nicer weather. So, wouldn't we all? So, anyways, one of the big things here is Jameis Winston was the 30 for 30 club. He's the only guy in NFL history that's thrown 30 touchdown passes and 30 interceptions in the same season. And a lot of people believe that Tampa would have been a playoff team if it wasn't for Winston completely blowing it in these games. He had some stinkers too, man. 33 TDs to 30 interceptions, but again, 5,000 yards. This guy attempted 626 passes. 626, completed 60.7 of them. That might sound like something that it might be in Randy Fichtner's. Wait, we're in the quarterback zone. I forgot. Sign him up. Bring him along. Not to mention, when I looked into whether or not he was mobile or whatever, he couldn't get away from anybody. He got sacked 47 times last year. I mean, that's absurd. That's like how many times what did the Steelers have? 48 as a defense, or did they reach 50 last year? I can't remember, but they were somewhere in the neighborhood of that. I want to bang my head against the desk because some of the things that come out, go get Cam Newton, go get James. But then again, some of the same people, they have enough of a, what do you want to say, a grand illusion or creative imagination that they'll just get these guys as backups. Oh, yeah, backups. How much money do you think Jameis Winston or Cam Newton probably wants? I assume Newton's probably in the $25 million a year range. Just throwing it out there, at least, right? That's probably what he's looking for. Now, Winston hasn't gotten his big contract yet. I know he was a first round, a top pick, but he was still operating under a rookie contract and a 5th-year option. I'm actually going to look this up in a second because I'm curious because I never did actually look this up before. But I'm under the assumption that Jameis Winston wants to make more money because everybody, come on, Sean Davis is going over to the Redskins for $5 or $6 million a year. That's more than what he was making with the Steelers under a rookie contract as a safety. So when you look at the sliding scale of safeties being paid tremendously less than what quarterbacks on average make, I'm going to see what Jameis Winston has had. Let's see, I'm looking at his 4-year contract, $25.3 million. That's what he got.
Woo-hoo.
I mean, it's just and then a signing bonus of 16.7, call it 16.7. So, his cap number has been and I know the cap number they shove some of this off from year to year, but his 5th-year option was worth 20.9 last year basically. He's looking at 20 million or better. He's not looking to make less money.
No, and we've talked about this, at various times, and the bottom line is, unless his mentality changes, and he is willing to accept that his new role is going to be that of a backup as opposed to that of a starter, it's not going to happen. It's just not, and as a result, the likelihood that Jameis Winston ever comes to Pittsburgh is slim to none. Not to mention the fact that they don't have any money. Even now, yes, they got plenty of money to get doing what they needed to do, but they don't have money to sign a quarterback that is going to demand $5 million a year. It just isn't. Wait, I feel something coming over me. It might be the Twilight Zone persona. Yes, they can. They can extend a bunch of people. They can cut that Terrell Edmonds. That'll get them enough money. Then they could sign Jameis Winston, and we'll win 4 Super Bowls. That's what'll happen.
They'll win every Super Bowl from now through the whole decade, all-decade team.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know where to go. You'd already called out Brooke. I didn't know if I wanted to jump to the draft just yet.
I'll call out somebody else because there's another one of those NFL people who's a moron.
You know what? Let's have some fun with the draft because, I mean, who else is actually available? I don't even know. Like, is there anybody else that's available? They're going to trade it for Andy Dalton. They'll trade their second-round pick because that's all they got. And I don't think Andy Dalton's worth even it wasn't A.J. McCarron or something. Remember, people were trying to get like a second-round pick for him, and you see how that turned out. It's just, crazier, sillier things have happened out there, and I don't think you're going to get that kind of whatever the asking price is there, but he's linked to some places. Some people try to think he's going to go to New England. They have Hoyer, they have Jason Stidham or whatever, and they'll probably draft somebody, is my guess, unless they go with the red rifle. And then I would say that's the red Russian revolver or red Russian roulette. Because, I mean, does he get pulled the first time he goes, defender, and throws the ball over to the sideline? I don't know.
I don't want to get hit.
I don't want to get hit. He might be a good fit in Pittsburgh. He wouldn't get hit too often, but he's still, you look at guys. I know a lot of people. Well, let's talk about who's on the roster right here. Oh, the Steelers can't afford to buy anybody else, so they could just roll with what they got, or they could draft somebody new. Which avenue should we take here? I mean, I know we've kind of beat the dead horse on talking about a future with Mason Rudolph, but you're probably talking at least one season now. If you're in the position where right now Ben isn't playing, do you roll with Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges, and Paxton Lynch as maybe your three guys? And I know JT Barrett would be coming to camp in that situation. Do you roll with those 3 or 4 guys as the guys you bring to camp?
If if in Twilight Zone world, Ben re-injures his elbow and we know he's not going to play next year. Do you try and do something? Do you draft a quarterback? No, you don't. Why? Because none of them is that damn good. And the ones that are good are going to be gone. So no, you don't. You roll with who you got. And then I guess, wait, here it comes again. And you tank for the Clemson quarterback next year. That's what you do, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's assuming you tank or the guy that you have isn't any good. You never know. I mean, you look at the guys they were throwing to. You got guys like Juju that were hurt and James Conner that were hurt, that were Pro Bowl guys. We talk about Rosie Nix, a Pro Bowl fullback that wasn't there. There were all kinds of different leaky holes, and they couldn't patch it from sinking the offensive ship last year. But I agree with you. But some people don't. They even look at this roster right now with Ben included, Ben playing, Ben being ready for the regular season, and all the guys I just mentioned. And they're still looking at the Steelers drafting someone. And we misread the one by Brooke. I thought it said first round pick. And I'm like, what first round pick? But it said first pick of the draft. And it's like, okay, I see some people talking about Jalen Hurts. Didn't Jalen Hurts lose his job to somebody?
At one point.
So did some of these other guys. I mean, Jameis Winston has been benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick in the past. But I'm saying you're not even getting benched in the pros. You're getting benched at the college level. And I understand there's transfers and people move and shift here or there. And, maybe some college coaches, maybe they're just not a fit. I mean, you even saw Joe Burrow go over and move from Ohio State down to LSU and how that worked out. So, I mean, there's a possibility there. But, it's usually the ones that are linked. It's like Jalen Hurts. That's the one I see. When I start seeing stuff like Jake Fromm, when I start seeing stuff like Jordan Love, and I know that was the one you just threw out because you hadn't seen this article yet from ESPN. And then when I told you we off the air in the back channels here, there were F-bombs thrown.
Yes, there were.
Jacob Eason. And it would be with the first pick 49. Do you think that we take a look at the draft classes and how this stuff usually works out? And I don't know how many quarterbacks are going to go in the first round this year. Maybe 3, maybe 4. After that, I mean, Mason Rudolph was the 6th guy out of his class. Nobody went in the second round, and it went all the way to, the Steelers, one of the comp picks or something that they traded, or toward the back end of the 3rd round until they took him. That's probably where some of these quarterbacks are going to fall in the 3rd or 4th. I think we fall in love so much with who's going to be the next great passer that automatically everyone is like a first-round talent. That happened the year that Geno Smith was the first quarterback. There was Geno went into the second round. He wasn't the first taken, right? Was that the year E.J. Manuel was the only guy taken by the Bills? I think it might have been, but even be the case, EJ Manuel, first-round draft pick, these things don't always work out that way, and nor do they work out with guys like, Geno Smith and stuff like that. So very difficult position. I believe it's one of the hardest positions to crack a nut on and get the right person. So when I start hearing things about how the Steelers are gonna blow up the draft, that they already don't have many draft picks to wheel and deal with to begin with, to grab one of these other guys, I shake my head with nonsense. As you said, kick the can down the road and wait until next year, or maybe even several years, because you just don't know. Maybe Ben will even be just average, adequate enough where he rides out his contract, and then by then you could have the guy that's under the cheap rookie contract that's maybe a first rounder.
Yeah, look. We've said this multiple times. I'm going to keep saying it. I don't believe that the future of the Steelers quarterback position is on the roster right now. I don't think that they will be on the roster next year. But after that, at some point, that's when it's going to have to happen. I get all of the reasons that the offense failed, but in my book, the number one reason the offense failed last year was bad quarterback play. And I just don't see any of the quarterbacks that and it's unfair to put Paxton Lynch in this mix, because I didn't really get to see much Paxton Lynch, and I didn't watch him when he played for the Broncos because I didn't care. But I just, from what I did see, these aren't the guys that are going to lead you to the promised land. And I understand that, nor did I ever expect either of them to be that guy. So if Ben is, for whatever reason, not Ben, you are going to have some downtime. I don't know. Jacob Eason, come on. Isolation must do some things to your brain. I think there's studies that prove that, get out take the pajamas off and, just pretend you're going out. I don't know. Make a video call, damn it. Get some contact with humanity, because you clearly are going insane, Brooke.
You're getting locked in the house, and you're just it's not good for all of our mental, health. I think so. You know what it is? There's even such a greater lack of sports news. You have like me and Zach were just talking about this on the last pod. I'm not sure if you got a chance to listen to our superior broadcasting skills, Brian, but we were talking about how there's nobody traveling around like for pro days or anything. It's such a great mystery what's going to go on with the draft. So you start throwing darts, being blindfolded in the dark, wherever you can, and you come up with stuff like that. And I don't always mind it. It's kind of a fantasy world, which, is the same thing that we're dealing with here.
Speaking of which, by the way, not yes. to give myself a promo, but I'm going to give myself a promo, because, next time around, you need some rest and respite, as you and I have discussed. Next time around, mock draft insanity, my friend. Mock draft insanity. Yes, indeed. And what kind of craziness fantasy world are we going to live in then? You know that it's going to be weird.
I think you're going to be traveling through another dimension.
Oh, way more than one. Probably 6 or 7 of them.
If you've never been part of Brian's mock draft insanities, if you've never heard one of these on the podcast or seen them on the website in written form, of which I don't know that Brian still even has his password to do the written ones, but those used to be, they were like novels, dude. I mean, there was so much tucked into them, but they're totally unrealistic, but you get to learn a lot about the picks too. So prepare yourselves. You will have to mentally prepare for that. That's going to be coming later in the week. But, I don't think even the craziest draft that you have, do you have like any quarterbacks? I've seen people, there's, fans and stuff that do these mock drafts, and they try getting like a guy from like Hawaii or something and tuck him into the 7th round. And he may be a guy that goes undrafted or whatever. And you end up seeing like stuff like that. And it's like, well, you know what? This is going to address the quarterback position. No, it's not. The guy that's in the 7th round is going to be lucky to address the camp arm situation in most cases. So, I mean, it's preposterous. You may not even get good work out of the camp arm. That's the whole idea behind the camp arm. You're trying to get somebody that can run some semblance of an offense and not be a complete screw up, connect with some passes, make receivers and running backs and whoever else look good, maybe they look to make themselves look good in the process, which was Duck Hodges last year. You have a few outliers, but it's the exception to the rule usually, and there's not space on many NFL rosters. Don't even roster a full 3 quarterbacks. They may only roster 2, maybe have a guy tucked away on a practice squad. So, we've talked about the free agents. We've talked about just briefly here. We talked about the draft because they're not going to move up and. They're talking about the Miami Dolphins now moving up to try and take the Bengals first pick overall, and I said I was struggling with that because it's one of those things. You get the guy that's sweating, and it's like, which button do you press? That meme. The one is Joe Burrow turns out good and gets drafted by the Bengals. I don't know that I want to see that. But then let's just say they trade with the Dolphins, they get a buttload of picks and end up doing well with those like the 49ers did, and then they're a Super Bowl contender. So I'm really sweating at which button to hit here with the Bengals. Of course, knowing it's the Bengals, either of those buttons will probably malfunction and blow up in their face. So it'll be okay. I just keep telling myself it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So what other quarterbacks are available, Brian? Oh, wait a minute. You got the XFL guys. They could all be signed now. So I know a lot of people wanted P.J. Walker, and he's gone now. He's going to what? Carolina, his former coach, and backing up Teddy Bridgewater. So who else is available out there? Cardale Jones. That was the guy. 2 weeks into the XFL. Our former Buckeye guy. He was the man. That's the key word.
I got to give – look, it may have taken a while for this to come to fruition. But a high school buddy of mine named Don Roberts, I'm giving him his shout out here. He said, Cardale Jones to the Steelers, that's the future at the quarterback position. He told me that. And I told him he was nuts. And he still is, because no.
Well, I was looking at Cardale Jones' stats here. So 61 of 113 passes. That's, he's bordering there on the 50%. He had a 57.9 quarterback rating when this was all said and done. Sacked 5 times, threw 4 TDs. I believe those were all in the first 2 weeks to 7 picks before getting benched. I forgot who he got benched for. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Tyree Jackson, that's right. And Tyree Jackson was marginally a little better. And this was against XFL competition. And, it sucks to say this stuff because, I was a fan of the league. I'm a fan of some of these players like a Josh Johnson or Jordan Ta'amu went over to the Chiefs, I believe. But Cardale's still out there. So Cardale, big body prototype. You want Cam Newton, but not at the Cam Newton price. You want the great value brand. Here you go. I could give everybody their wish. You could get Cardale Jones or his brother from another mother, Brian, the GOAT, Landry Jones. He's still out there. I know he was Mr. X, supposed to be Mr. XFL. He's still out there. He's already played with the Steelers. He's got familiarity with the Heinz Field, I guess, because, some of the coaches have moved on, and so the players, but it doesn't matter. He used to wear black and gold. Let's bring him back, too. You know what? I want to roster like 8 quarterbacks. Can we do that? Let's get Jameis, Cam, Cardale, and Landry, add them to the room that's already there. Well, that would be 9. That's good. Well, no, it's not. It's 8 because then Ben, we're under the assumption Ben's not playing. Well, that's right.
Yeah, JT will be happy that Cardale shows up. I mean, they can reminisce about the Buckeye world, and the rest of them, I don't know. Paxton Lynch can go sit in the corner because nobody will talk to him. I just don't know. That's a big room, and
they have to add chairs. They just add chairs. That's all you do.
Add chairs. Well, hey, they got more roster spots now, right? And why not? Just fill them up with quarterbacks. That's all we ever need because the 9th quarterback on your roster is really critical.
I mean, it doesn't even work that way for fantasy football, does it? Like if you have a second quarterback, we just played around with that with our SCU league this year. We did the dual quarterback thing, and that was interesting. And who the heck let the professor draft both Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes? That was just
I don't know. I didn't get to draft because I couldn't get in because
and then there's
ESPN hates me.
Brian's the guy that couldn't even set his roster, so he auto drafted, which is the worst thing in the world. And then he didn't bother to go fix his password for the rest of the season, so he was starting Antonio Brown when Antonio Brown wasn't even in football. So I thought about doing an Antonio Brown April Fool's joke, by the way, too. I was going to say he signed with the XFL and because their season would still be going, but Antonio Brown in his own little world doesn't know that, so he's back to playing pro football. Mr. Big Checks, getting the big checks. He would be a tier 1 guy. He'd probably be making $600,000 there. Show everybody what he's going to do.
Sure.
That would be fun too. I mean, I love how Bruce Arians just came right out. You know how Bruce Arians talks. Didn't he drop like an F-bomb? He was swearing in the booth when they had him in the booth week 1 as a color guy. Accidentally swore right on live TV, and I wouldn't say accidentally. That's he's like
that's Bruce Arians, man. That's what he is, who he is. It's all good. I love it.
His mom was a trucker. His dad was a sailor. So, that's where he gets it from, apparently. I get it, too, sometimes, but I have a little bit of a filter. He's not filtered, and he went straight out and said, there's like no way in hell that Antonio Brown's going to be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I love everybody's like creativity with this type of stuff. I hope you liked our creativity because, I'm sure somebody out here is going to be like, well, Aaron Murray or Matt McGlowan, there's still XFL guys that are going to be okay, just because, we crapped all over Landry and Cardale, the Jones twins or the Jones boys. I don't know. I wanted to be a little funny with some of this, but some of it is just so sad that you can't even like joke about it, that people are literally going out and like, go get Cam Newton, go get Jameis Winston. I understand wanting a veteran quarterback, but, it's like, I don't know. Have we been spoiled as Steelers fans? I mean, I could see, we were talking about this before. I mean, I could see Cam Newton being the kind of guy that Mike Tomlin would like. He's had guys like that. I mean, but then again, Mike Vick with the cannon arm and a guy that was mobile. I mean, I could see it. The Steelers have done that before. But Cordell Stewart was one of Bill Cowher's guys. And then, somebody was just posting about him somewhere I saw. And it was like, yeah, I absolutely loved Slash as a player when he was Slash. When he became a quarterback, it was very tumultuous. He was up and down, and he threw some picks, and it hurt him. And it hurt, who knows where else the Steelers would have been if you would have had somebody like Ben maybe a little bit earlier, or say Dan Marino would have happened. There's a Twilight Zone one for you. Maybe we could still get him. He's out there, Brian. He's available. He's available, but we talk about all this, and it was just something that was a conversation starter and something we wanted to elaborate a little bit more on. And we're not going to talk quite an hour and talk everybody's ear off about this. We got more important things to do, places to not go to, and things to not see. So, but in this. I'm just thinking about the whole quarantine thing, and it's just, it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. I just don't see particularly a team like the Steelers feeling that they have a need at quarterback. You've had everyone in the organization from the top down, from Art Rooney II to Kevin Colbert to Mike Tomlin, all say that they felt comfortable with the quarterback situation. They feel comfortable with Ben's progress and seeing him return. They feel comfortable with Mason Rudolph as a backup. I'm sure they feel that they're going to give Duck Hodges and Paxton Lynch an equal share of opportunity to be able to compete for probably the third roster spot. And I'm just going to surmise that JT Barrett's going to be there to help them work on defending the Baltimore Ravens offense in camp and getting that set up earlier, because you know what? This is the way some of these NFL teams are going. And not only that, this is something that you got to face the Baltimore Ravens probably at least twice. We know at least twice for the regular season. And even going forward, we're not going to get the extra playoff. We're not getting the extra playoff games this year, right? We were talking about that before.
No, it actually just was released. Yes.
Was that? I saw it's going to be like they're going to do a Nickelodeon broadcast too. That's not even an April Fool's joke. They should have saved that another day. It's going to be on Nickelodeon with a broadcast geared for kids. I hope they slime somebody. That would be awesome. But yeah.
Oh, No sliming Super Bowl players or playoff players.
No, you slime Joe Buck or Chris Collinsworth.
I'm okay with slime Joe Buck all you want. Because Joe Buck.
Oh, man. And with that, folks, we will, anyways. But, yeah, anyway, we're going to wrap. We're going to put a bow on this. And, I forgot where I was going. Oh, with the Ravens, yeah. So, I mean, it's somebody they're going to have to see at least twice. And if the Ravens are, going to be in competition to win a division, you get an extra playoff spot. That's what I was getting at. There's more likelihood that you may even see him a third time. So, and then they also have like a mobile guy that they're going to have to face with Baker Mayfield. And you never know what's going to go go on with this Bengals stuff. If they don't take Joe Burrow, what happens if they get Tua and Tua's healthy? There's another guy you're going to have to worry about as far as being like a weapon too, multifaceted, talented quarterback, coming out of college. So it's going to be interesting. I think that's where they stand. No, Ben is not, going anywhere. That was all just part of a little bit of the April Fool's joke if you fast forwarded through the first 5 minutes of this program. So we're just going to reiterate that so as to not get any hate mail. We like to joke around and have some fun here sometimes, and we hope you enjoy it too. So, Brian, thanks once again for joining me today, and look forward to seeing the mock draft insanity coming up here.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm thrilled with it. And let me just say this again.
Felicific.
I'm felicific for happily being near you once more, or maybe not near you, but Joe, you make me
Felicific.
That's very disturbing. It's very disturbing. Anyways, my name's Joe. His name's Brian. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you are interested in being in on the ground floor with having a discount for the big tailgate party and the game in Jacksonville between the Steelers and the Jaguars, you shoot over a message at fanmail@steelcityunderground.com, and we'll put you on the list and let you know when all of that stuff becomes available. So until next time, folks, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.